Welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrea, and in this channel we talk all things business, mindset, edtech, online teaching and teaching in general. In this video we're going to be talking about how to write your resume for an English language teaching position. So if you want to know how to write one, then keep on watching. So I do have to say that I have some notes on my left, so if you see me just glancing, it's because I really want to address all of the points that I believe are important when it comes to writing a CV. And in case you're wondering, why would you have to listen to me? I basically got sponsored twice for a work. I got a work visa sponsored in two different countries. One of them was Russia, and if you want to know more about my experience in Russia, then do let me know. The other one was in Italy, and if you want to know more about my experience teaching in Italy, make sure to watch this video. I'm gonna leave it somewhere here. And I am currently working as a language teacher in Australia, and in case you want to know more about my experience teaching English in Australia, then make sure to just click somewhere here, and I will just leave that video right here. And of course, if you have any other questions, then you're more than welcome to leave them in the comment section. So I would like to start with the fact that resumes really vary depending on the country. So even though I believe that the things that I'm gonna say will more or less apply to any country, you just have to bear in mind that sometimes it may not, or the specific country that you're applying to, then they may have a different resume format or a CV format. So this is something that of course you have to bear that in mind. But yeah, in general, if you are just applying, if you are in a country, for example, Argentina, again, like Italy, Russia, or even Australia, these are the things that I have done and some other things that I recommend doing when it comes to preparing your resume. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that I would say that has to be included on the top of your resume is all of your contact information. Now, I do have to say that I am slightly terrified of putting all of my information there. So mostly I will just be writing, my full name or my first name and my last name. If you have one last name, you can just write one. If you have two last names, you can just write both of them. I normally write both of them. Then the next one is your address. The thing is, I almost never write my exact address. The most that I do is that I might include the city and the country. So if you're living, if you're living in London, I'll just be like London, England, and I will not say the street, let alone the neighborhood. I don't know, I just don't, I wouldn't risk it, but that's just me. As opposed to probably if you are going, if you are sending your CV online, if you're attaching it to an email or something, then yeah. But otherwise, then just I believe that just the city and the country should be enough, particularly if you're applying for, jobs abroad, because they don't really need to know which, street you live on. Like, that's not important. They just need to know where you are at the moment. The next thing that I think it's important is your phone number. I usually include my phone number, and I also add, calls and also sometimes WhatsApp, because sometimes I've also been approached, like people don't even call me, they just send me a WhatsApp message, letting me know that I have been selected for an interview, or letting me know in case they would like to, see more of, in case they would like me to send a video. Usually that's very common. I have done that in the past, just sending a video so that they can actually see, if you have a good pronunciation or not. Then the next one is, of course, the professional email address. And I'm pretty sure I have spoken about this in a previous video. If not, then of course, I'm going to say that again. Please make sure that you have a professional email address, not any email address. So, for example, I have seen, because I was working somewhere where I received lots of emails from people applying for jobs in that specific business, and there were many people who they sent us their email, but the email was like, I don't know, dirty socks 99 at gmail.com or peanut butter 52 at gmail.com. Like, how do you expect the business to treat you seriously if that's, your email? I don't know. So what I would normally suggest is include your first name and your last names at, for example, gmail.com, hotmail.com, Outlook. It doesn't really matter which service provider you use, as long as it has your name. But sometimes, of course, some names, I don't know, you cannot have that specific email address because of maybe somebody else has taken it. But at least for probably something that's also very common is that people would write the first letter of their names and then their two last names. So for example, for me, it would be A and my first name, a last name at gmail.com. Okay? Or the other way around, my two last names and then my full first name, or just the first letter of my first name. So this is also something to bear in mind. It's not something, that can make or break a decision when in terms of like hiring you or not. But I would say that first impressions really matter, especially if you are applying for jobs abroad and you want them to take you seriously, and they want to know that you take the application seriously. Additionally, I have seen that some people do include their Instagram accounts or even their LinkedIn. I would suggest, if you have a LinkedIn, then you can include it. But if not, then I personally, I would not include my Instagram. I have seen that happening. I have seen people, either they link their Instagram when they are sending the cover letter, let's say, when they email the company explaining, who they are and if they the fact that they are looking for a job, and they would link their Instagram. And sometimes we would go on these Instagrams, we would check their Instagram accounts, and it would be about something completely different. For example, people would just post, food, or they would post, I don't know, the sunset or something like that, which makes no sense to what you're actually, applying to. So I would just bear that in mind. I would not link my Instagram. And the next thing, which we can all agree to disagree, but personally, I have, for the past 2 or 3 years, I haven't included my nationality when it came to applying for jobs. I don't say that I'm Argentinian. I just don't include it. And for me, it has worked out, okay. If you want, you can include it or not. I haven't included it for the past 2 or 3 years. But in case you want to include it, then you're more than welcome to do so. Additionally, and this is something that I would say that concerns to people working, particularly, for example, in Australia, is to include the visa that you're on. So for example, if you're on a working holiday visa, then include the type of visa that you're on, because sometimes HR will call you and ask you what type of visa you're on. So that's also something important, especially if your visa has restrictions. The next part, which I think is super important, is the profile, or the personal summary or personal statement. I believe that the one that I have is short and it's pretty concise. Like if someone just, reads through it, then they will know what I have done in the past. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be sharing it with you. I have tweaked it a little bit over the past few years, and every time that I've started a new job and I've finished that job, then I will of course go back to it and add all the important information that needs to be in this paragraph. Okay, so I'll just read it for you. So, a dedicated and compassionate professional with a strong background in education and a passion for ESL, EFL, EAL, educational technology, and e-learning. I have a proven track record of providing high-quality care and education to young children, teenagers, adults, and senior adults. With experience working in multicultural environments in Argentina, Uruguay, Italy, Russia, and Germany, and a commitment to fostering a positive learning environment, I am well equipped to support the learning process of anyone learning English and/or Spanish in various contexts and for different purposes. I am keen on developing further in the areas of e-learning, international exams, and take on more senior and leadership positions. So that's basically what my profile says, which is basically a summary of all of the experience that I have. So of course you can just use this. Please do not copy it. But of course, if you want to use it as a sort of like for inspiration, then you're more than welcome to do so. But just make sure that it actually highlights what your experience is and who you are as a professional. And of course, you're more than welcome to use it for inspiration again. Now, before we continue, I'd like to make a distinction between like two different ways of approaching the making of a resume, and they really depend on whether or not you have experience. If you don't have experience, for example, when I started, of course I had no experience, so I would just add my academic background. That is to say, if you had any relevant degrees, any courses, certificates, postgraduate courses, or anything of the kind, you can add it first. I think that that's great, because you're showing, even though you don't have a lot of experience, but you're at least showing that you are developing your skills. So yeah, but let's say that you do have experience, and this is something that I have done. After I have all of my personal information, after I have my personal, my personal summary, instead of writing my education background, I would just skip that. I'll just put that at the end, and then include all of the experience. So you would have personal details, personal statement, and your experience. So depending on where you are applying to, they might ask you to be a little bit more specific when it comes to dates, as like when you started working in this place, and you have to pinpoint the exact date. I don't do that. I just include the year that I started working for them, and the year that I finished working for them, and also the country. Next to it, I have the position that I had and the name of the place that I worked at. And below, I include all of the tasks that I had to do. Now, I'm going to read you an extract of what I am talking about. I was responsible for delivering face-to-face English language lessons in school in a city, as well as conducting open doors lessons and presentations to attract potential students, and screening potential students using placement tests, written and oral examinations, teaching very young learners aged 3 to 5, young learners aged 6 to 10, as well as adults and seniors in group classes and one-to-one lessons, participating in drop-in observations, formal observations, and peer observations. And I was also trained and conducted mock exams for the Cambridge English Department, first and advanced exams. So of course it's just a little bit of what I've done, but I have added all of the important information. So what type of classes I taught, what, the ages of the students, and then what else I did in terms of conducting drop-ins, like observations, peer observations, what type of training I received, as well as, in terms of like the administrative part, like if you have done, for example, written reports, organized field trips, or anything of the kind, you can of course include that as long as it's relevant. So one of the main things that I've seen that teachers do is that they just, write the year that they started working in a particular place, where this particular place is, like which city it is in, the title, the position that I had, and the name of the company, and that's it. And that really doesn't say much. So I try to be as specific as possible when it comes to the things that I've done in that particular place. Although I will say that I haven't lied on my CV. I know that many people do say that you have to lie on your CV. I personally have never done that, because I'm too afraid that I'm gonna get caught. So I've never done that. So only include, for me, I would say that only include the things that you have done, the things that you have experience in. And even if it's a little bit, even if you have done just one field trip, but you have organized one, then you just write that. But if you haven't, then don't do that. Because in case they ask you to do it and you don't know how to do it, you will be really exposing yourself. So I don't know, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't risk it. So after I've listed all of the things, that I've done, in terms of experience, I would then include my education background. Again, I write the dates that I started, the dates that I finished, where I studied, and the degree that I had, and any other type of information. If you were graduated with honors, or anything of the kind, then of course you can do that. Then some people do include the postgraduate degrees in terms of the postgraduate courses, maybe advanced certificates that they have done within the same area. I haven't done that unless it's something that's pretty relevant. For example, I include the fact that I have a bachelor's and also the fact that I have a CELTA certificate, which, by the way, in case you want to know more about my experience doing CELTA, then make sure to leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to record a video on that. But then let's say that I have, participated in a different type of course. I would just include the courses that are relevant for the positions that you're applying. If it's not relevant, I would just put it in a different section as professional development, and then you list all of the courses that you have done. But if it's something that's relevant, I would include it in education right next to your degree. And next we have two sections, which are skills and languages. So when it comes to skills, of course, I write the ones that I know I have developed over time, and I'm going to read them to you. So these are educational technology, classroom management, lesson planning and implementation, multicultural awareness and sensitivity, communication and interpersonal skills, attention to detail and problem solving. All of these skills are exemplified in all of the information that I have written as my experience. So when it comes to educational technology, I did work as a senior teacher for an online school. So they know that I am, well acquainted when it comes to online learning and e-learning and virtual learning and all of that. Then when it comes to, for example, multicultural awareness and sensitivity, I have explained that I worked in several countries with people from different countries. And, I've taught people from different countries. So it gives you an idea that, of course, this is a skill that I have. I know how to work in a multicultural setting. So I would just look at the experience that you have and then write down the skills that you developed through working in these places. And last but not least, of course, languages. So I include the languages that I'm either, fluent in, or the languages that I more or less know. Like if I'm just starting to learn a language, I will not include it. For example, I have 3 of them listed, which are English, Spanish, and Italian. Of course, I'm fluent in English, I'm fluent in Spanish. And then Italian, I learned Italian when I was in Italy, and I know how to maintain a conversation. I know the basics. I can maintain a conversation with someone, especially if it's about very, silly things. I know how to talk, I understand a lot, so that's why I have included it. Additionally, if you have also gained scholarships, if you have done volunteer work, I definitely recommend to include that. If you have a question, make sure to leave it in the comments. And I really hope this video was useful, and if you found it useful, please like this video and share it with someone who you think might like it as well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!